Aromie here. Welcome back to our life beginnings and always. We are here having a late night game session with Derek. Possibly deep conversations, you know. Maybe.
Nice
possibly.
work.
Aw, you're so cute. This color looks so good on him. That's gonna be a record. Now we're set. Derek, retrieve the game you got at the mall. The case had been waiting patiently on the coffee table for a while now.
So?
There's a VS and team modes with this versus. I'm assuming. Why did I say VS? Versus and team modes with this racer. What are you in the mood for? When we work together, when play against you, I think we should switch between modes, but start a team together. Between modes, but start as enemies. Let's start as enemies. Oh, I see how it is. He leans towards you, oozing with mischief. Derek teasingly shook his raised fist.
Let's get to it.
Game on, Michiko. I'm not planning to lose. Good. I want your best. It'll make winning even sweeter. Oh, you shouldn't count your chicken before they hatch. You plucked the game case from his grip and skimmed the summary explanation as a refresher. It'd be good to come prepared. Derek crossed his arms, already confident. By the time we're done, you won't even be able to count how many chickens I've got. You threw up a high five that Derek enthusiastically met with a loud slap. He picked up a controller and shot you a wink. Derek put the game in and hovered by the console until he was satisfied that things were booting up correctly. He then relocated to the couch across from the TV and plopped down in the center. Dive bomb next to him, duh. The motion tilted him slightly on the cushion. His dramatic arrival sent him into a fit of laughter. Derek's cheeks were flushed as he wiped a tear from the corner of his eye. Hi, Michiko. Hey. You're cute. Can we talk about us? Like, what the fuck? You were close enough that your leg brushed against his while you got comfortable. Even after putting a few inches between you both, your shoulders occasionally bumped. Derek's welcoming smile brought a warmth to you. This is sad because your girl's about to leave the next day. Or maybe it was your hyper-awareness of his body heat radiating through his side. Either way, it was getting hotter. And on that note, you and Derek were at war against each other. Time went by a rapid clip while you were inside the world of the game. You're on fire in a good metaphorical, you held your own okay. To be blunt, you were sucking. To be honest, I suck at racing games. So, my girl talked all that hype for nothing. It didn't matter what you tried, things kept going from bad to worse, and then Derek swooped in to pick up the victory. You didn't mind too much because Derek only politely kicked your digital butt. He never wanted you to feel bad about that hard time you were having. And besides, witnessing the way he masterfully worked through the game challenges made the whole experience worth it. Your throat was sore from the highs of making each other laugh and from the lows of shouting out of frustration at TP. The game was still in full swing when suddenly Derek spoke up, not for further commentary on digital movies, but for real-life considerations. Did you want any snacks? Out of habit, you glanced in his direction, and he had his sight locked on the TV screen even still. I can't keep putting my stomach off. Can we pause for a minute? Yeah. Thank you. As soon as you lifted your finger off the pause button, Derek was already out of his seat and dashing towards the kitchen.
It's no problem.
I can bring something for you, too. I'll have whatever you're having. Can I have a snack that I picked out earlier? Did I pick out a snack? You unpause the game. I have whatever you're having. Cool, I'll grab enough for both of us. From the repeated clatter of cupboard doors, you knew he was checking every cabinet for the best treats. Your stomach began rumbling in anticipation. Derek returned and his arms were filled with all kinds of goodies you'd pick up on the grocery trip, and a couple you hadn't seen before. They must have been tucked away for a special occasion before you arrived. You carefully placed 2 water bottles down and then dumped the rest onto the coffee table.
Alright.
Behold! Derek flopped back down onto the couch and did a double take at the table. You'd already managed to swipe a handful of things. You're eager to get started again. Derek decided to sort through the settings and switch the game mode to the one you hadn't tried yet. You picked the controller up and spied it on Derek inconspicuously. As content as he looked munching away, he was still your ultimate rival. Ready to jump back in?
You've got it.
The TV's change in brightness as the game resumed from the dim pause menu was noticeable. Squinting, you listened to the familiar music flowing through the speakers until your eyes adjusted. Though it wasn't long before the game managed to suck you in once again. The game accelerated into its most important moments. Neither you nor Derek could be contained by your own seats. You kept pushing and pressing into each other on the couch. The night slipped by joyously. At one point, you took turns watching the other work through some single-player content. Despite Derek's usual position as the responsible one, you unknowingly stayed up gaming late into the night. Gradually, your eyelids drooped. Your laughter was replaced by yawns, and your voices grew softer until they were whispers floating slowly into cotton-filled ears. The last thing you heard was the melody of the game's music still playing, but sounding so far away. Oh my god, I fell asleep. You returned to awareness slowly. Your eyes were still heavy, and you rubbed at them. crashed into a cushion, you were exactly where you started your virtual exploits last night, on an off-white couch with Derek. Your head was on one end while he was at the opposite end. Derek's legs were awkwardly tucked underneath your arm and lower back. It couldn't have been comfortable for him either. Instead of collapsing onto the floor, you'd fallen over each other. Despite your blurry vision, you could make out his apologetic smile. Derek was already awake. He let out a low chuckle, one with far more life in it than anyone who had just been unconscious would have.
Sorry.
I didn't want to risk waking up by moving. We've kind of been stuck like this for a while. Good-humoredly, he winked. Having a sleepover in the living room as grown-ups definitely has one perk over doing it as kids. Said perk was interrupted by the sound of a ringing phone. Derek's eyes widened an instant. He shifted to reach his phone on the coffee table. He checked the caller ID and was in a disbelieving smirk crossed his face. His voice was whispered.
Are you serious?
No way. You couldn't guess whose mere cog would get that reaction. He slid his fingers across the screen and tapped the speaker button. Casually leaned back into the couch and stretched out an arm. From the fond twist of his lips, you knew this at least had to be someone close to him. Hey, Nico.
Hey.
Morning, bro. Aww. Nico, you're calling so early. Good morning. Michiko, you're actually the one I wanted to talk to. I just called Derek so I wouldn't bother you if you were still sleeping. Oh, and I don't need my sleep? Dude, you're the most morning-y person to have ever early rose. Nicholas Suarez really did not know Cove Holden. That was one competition Cove to golden every time. You get up so early you get up so early a night owl could give you a high five on their way to bed. That was literally me with my friend Mark. I was up already at 4 a.m. and he was getting ready to go to sleep. You hit the gym before the sudden stand-up routine broadcast into Derek's living room was cut off prematurely. Nico definitely could have kept going. Okay, we heard you the first time. Hey, you asked for it. Derek pointed a judgmental finger towards the phone. The only thing he said was quietly to you. This kid. He lifted his voice up to not let the conversation drag.
What's up?
So what's up? What do you think? Michiko's leaving soon, isn't she? So when will you come over to see me? Now? Soon? Derek theatrically rolled his eyes inwardly, laughing at Nicholas's eagerness. We've got to talk about it, and I mean me and Michiko, not me and you. Michiko's here already. Sorry, Nico, you're gonna have to share. We'll sort it out and I'll let you know.
Fine.
See you later. Yeah, I promise. You thought this... Oh, we'll definitely see you. Bye, Michiko. Derek pressed the red button on his phone screen and ended the call. Nico's gesture really was sweet. It might have been years since you last babysat him, but you still had a special attachment for him that you didn't for any other teen. Derek let out another long sigh. Still holding the phone in the air, he looked up at the device as if it was a magic wand.
Oh, man.
I should have figured. Derek, what were you gonna say before you called? Derek shook his head with a wry expression. I was about to say that with my own place, we didn't have to worry about little brothers interrupting our peaceful morning together. Technology has proven me wrong. He snorted. Nicholas didn't need to call it psychic. The timing was prophetic. Speak of the devil, right? He must have called as soon as he dragged himself out of bed. Typical Nico. He shrugged a single shoulder and then reached down to place his phone on the table
It's
again.
no problem.
We can still take it easy, though. You should take it as easy as possible for your stressful trip. He carefully disentangled himself from you and got to his feet. You flopped down onto the couch as he slipped out. Suddenly you're blessed with more space. You push yourself up and settle into a sitting position. I'm gonna take a shower and everything, then we should have breakfast. You finally left the mild comfort of the couch, shaking off the remaining sleepiness. Go for it. Wash that hair. I have to get ready
Talk to you later.
See you soon. With that, he headed off to the back of the apartment. You skipped to your room to begin your normal morning routine after a particularly not normal start of the day. Derek's insistence on playing in pajamas had certainly worked out in ways he hadn't foreseen. Maybe he'd have an inkling of it. With two game-loving brothers, it was possible he had practiced dozing off on the controller before. While changing your wrinkled clothes, your phone buzzed with a text from your sister. Liz was giving me the heads up that she was going to pop in to see some friends in the afternoon while she had the chance, but she'd be there to see you off before the end of the day. You typed a quick message letting her know that it was cool and sent it. When you finished your morning ritual, you returned out to the main area of the apartment. Finished with his own daily prep, Derek had made his way back onto the couch. He couldn't stay away for long. Welcome back. Thank you. Hunger had become a third wheel to your party by the point you got to work to send it on its way. You and Derek threw something together and had a relaxed meal. It was all good. The two of you could pretend that this wasn't the last time you'd be waking up together for who knew how long. Oh, Liz texted while you were gone. She's gonna go see us after she does some friend stuff. It'll be the evening, probably. He nodded along, not looking shocked. Liz grew up in the area too. She had plenty of roots to water in that lane.
Anyway.
Speaking of people to see, my family's coming over here today, so is Liz. But we've got to ask your mom still. They're gonna want to say bye, I bet. Can Mr. Holden come too? For sure. Thanks for letting them visit. I'll text them. Of course, it's gonna be so cool to open my own place to the grown-ups after being their guest a million times. And I love having you here with me. It's like we're living together, for real, permanently, as if you weren't just a guest. I mean, you could make this a possibility.
That's a bummer.
Too bad it's gonna end. It's gotta end. Damn. All morning he appeared giddy, excited by your presence. That light still shone through, but averting your eyes from reality wasn't a foolproof strategy. He had accidentally broke the illusion. He pressed his lips together tight and his brows pulled in intensely. Today's gotta be big. It's the last chance. We should do something you couldn't do anywhere else. You braced yourself for that coming conclusion and then smiled. You have the best ideas. Yes, let's do it. Now, how to end this trip on a bang?
It's
the last chance. Those three words came back softly, a more fragile echo of the original, yet they had even more weight. Well, he paused, taking a deep, intentional breath. Then he plainly offered a suggestion. We could go to the boardwalk.
What do you think?
It's even further away than the water park, and we'd probably have to leave after only an hour, but we can make it if you want to. What do you think? Derek's normally clear eyes were clouded with emotion. The boardwalk was a special place to him. That's perfect. Are you kidding? We gotta go. Could you run out the door right now? It can't be too early.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it. Can we go on the Ferris wheel? Can that be our one ride and then we go home? He was halfway to jumping to his feet before he realized where he was. As soon as we finished our food, obviously. That did not seem obvious to Derek until a second ago. Yeah, let's just eat. Yeah, we'll need that.
Right.
Very true. You both finished every bite of your breakfast, although you could tell that Derek was rushing. You placed your dishes in the sink after Derek's. Just leave them. I'll wash them later. You didn't comment on the slightly out-of-character action, and instead started putting together what you needed for the trip. After you had packed up some supplies, you headed out to the car. During the drive, Derek's brain was in sharp focus. We should make sure everyone knows that the get-together will be for dinner, a late-ish dinner.
I got you.
I'll leave it to you if you want to tell the gang about our own plans for the day or keep it a secret. I don't know if you want to deal with everyone asking why they weren't invited, but they are a lot more grown up than they used to be. Sometimes I forget that. It's our secret. He put a finger to his lips. I won't say a word. Oh, you're so cute. You can't tell everyone everything all the time. We're here! After a very long ride and some struggles with parking, Derek had to resort to circling like a vulture until a spot opened up. You and Derek were strolling under a wide blue sky into the bustling boardwalk. The boardwalk amusement park was as dizzying and dazzling as it was 10 years ago. Music was playing from the storefront. Screens blared out at the peaks of the coaster. And crowds of people were laughing and talking from all sides. You knew as soon as the scent of the sea and fried food struck your senses that this was the right call for your last stop on your trip with Derek. At your side, Derek spoke, soft and sentimental. We made it. Took us long enough. Together, you stepped further down the path. For a place that felt so alive, it was almost uncanny how little had changed over the years. The bike rental store was there, though they also offered shiny new electric scooters. There were still vibrant stalls offering a variety of fair foods, and two big rides, the coaster and the Ferris wheel, continued to tower above the bustling crowds. You were sure of one difference without needing to see it. The face painting counter would have a total stranger running it. Xavier had moved on to decorating cakes rather than children's cheeks. Still being there was a time machine into a summer long gone. You and Derek were two teens once again. You got your attention with enough boyish excitement to confirm it.
So?
What do you want to do? Well, we can. We'll have to leave pretty early to make it back to the farewell dinner. But we can ride the rides, grab a treat, browse some stores, or hell, we could rent our own bikes if you want. His pure enthusiasm made frowns outright impossible. He chuckled, the joy vibrant through you coming out. Your first time in the boardwalk was an experience. It was such a huge trip. Both of your parents and siblings had been there, but separated into two groups. For better and for worse, you went all across the very boards currently under your feet. Meanwhile, the adults hadn't had their heels on the floor. They were fit into pedals. The shock you felt learning they'd gone off on bikes without a care in the world was as fresh as ever in your mind, and that wasn't all that lingered within you. Important details about face painting. Nico being carried around like a sack of potatoes, snacks on the beach on the sunset, and the Ferris wheel. Viewing it not only in hindsight but as an adult made the moments even more significant. They were precious. You'd never experience your first time here again, or what it was like to be 13 when the world was only beginning to open up wide. Even so, your thoughts weren't completely tinged in rose. A fuzzy blink of nostalgia couldn't make you forget how it almost wasn't a nice time. How it only got to stay good because one person cared enough to make certain it did. How Derek Suarez cared more for others than himself. That remained starkly true about him more than a decade later. For the brief time you've been in the area, he gladly let Nicholas direct the activity multiple times, and did his best to not let George feel left out. Along with looking out for his own family, he never let that superset, whatever, your comfort or wants, and he accommodated your sister too, after he put in all the effort to help her come see everyone. Derek even went against all his good boy standards and snuck into an apartment complex pool for the sake of the group. You were sure he had fun being a part of the misadventures, but most times he's been a passenger in the exploits, despite having to be the person who drove everyone else. That answered Derek's question for you. I think that you should ask me what I think. This is your day to enjoy the boardwalk after spending your whole life making sure everyone else had fun here. Derek's grin collapsed. A crease formed in his brows. He was stunned and very touched. While the appreciation was unmistakable, he hesitated to accept such an offer.
Don't worry about that.
You don't have to do that. It's your vacation, and you've missed out on stuff too. You weren't surprised by that response, but it didn't play like a rejection. He only needed some extra encouragement, like a kid who thought it was bad to open a present before his birthday, even if he got permission from the giver. And it's your vacation too. A working vacation, but still. Eye contact temporarily failed him. Derek watched his own foot scuff at the spot where the slab of wood met another. A downturned face didn't hide the wide smile across it. Bro, he's so dreamy, bruh. Strawberry ice cream. Sorry. Got distracted. Thanks, Michiko. Don't thank me yet. Have some fun first. Gradually, his normal confidence returned. It wasn't a mistake. He wasn't doing something wrong. He could simply enjoy himself and he would.
Come on.
Okay then, if you're positive, sure. Want to get our faces painted. We've got to start the day right. I had a feeling you might say that. Yeah, you laughed at this wonderful idea you definitely cannot watch. I had a feeling you might say that. Ooh! Derek spun in a half circle and resolutely thrust a hand ahead of him, straight towards the chosen destination.
Nice.
I'm gonna get whatever I want. It could be anything. The sky's the limit. The cheer in his voice and the shimmer in his eyes was better than any thrill in the boardwalk could have offered. You almost had to feel guilty yourself. He'd done you another favor by allowing you to be the one who did him a favor. That tended to be the way it went. You weren't complaining about that particular dynamic. Hey, you getting one? Of course. Cool. I'm not gonna let him be the only one to get it. With no time to lose and a plan in your mind, you and Derek went to the old face painting stand with the new artist. Welcome, I've got a free spot if you see something you like. The painter was far less glamorous than Xavier, but no less friendly or worse at their job, if the new example photos were to be believed. They had their own flair in the strokes and choice of color. He ushered Derek into his seat, and it was his day, and for once he was going to go first. After you. He appreciatively obliged, strutted ahead, and hopped up onto the raised chair. Derek had no embarrassment over being an adult at a face painting stall. It was nice to see. Oh, excellent. What can I get you? Derek took a polite glance at the offered styles on display, though didn't need any time to decide. How about a shooting star? Good choice. Aww, the artist wasn't simply being polite. Well, they might have been, but shouldn't if they were. Derek beamed like a star himself. Nothing could have fit better. Taking it from point to point before detaching a long tail, soon Derek's cheek was emblazoned with a bright star streaking across his face. But they hadn't finished yet. The stall had upped its production value since you were last there. The artist added a finishing touch of glitter to the centerpiece and painted sparkles over the basic tail.
Whoa.
Oh, cute! It was a pleasant surprise for Derek as well. He'd been sure of what he was getting and ended up with more. Hopefully that would be a pattern of things to come. Thank you. Derek shook the hand of the artist vigorously before bounding out of the chair to show you. Check it out. Not bad, huh?
Man.
Honestly, I always thought the shooting star was the coolest. It has the most going on out of any of the options, but it's not exactly Nico's style. Your great brother, I think it's cool. You deserve a gold star. Oh. He let out a snort while only barely stopping himself from slapping his freshly painted cheeks. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I say that you're right. But he twisted on his heel and took 2 steps backwards. The front of the stall was clear, and Derek was in place to keep watch. Your turn. Cool. You walked under the large umbrella that covered the stall and settled into the paint-splattered seat. Hello, what can I get you? It was a difficult question, but after some serious soul-searching, you said... A heart. I wanted a heart. I saw my face with cars, sun school, whiskers, and painted nose. I want a heart. Another wonderful selection, for the second time at least with you and Derek. It might have been their dozenth for the day. The painter put their talent into action. The bristles tickled your skin. You wonder how children managed to stay still for this. It might be because the process wasn't too long. You were in expert hands while you had been distracted by the unusual sensation they had finished. Your heart was topped off with a dash of glitter and the piece was complete. You smiled in the mirror, the artist angled at you. Thank you. It's my pleasure. When you rejoined Derek outside of the stall, you admired the charming composition and got a thumbs up from him.
Awesome.
You paid the artist for the work, just you since you were covering Derek, and he certainly wasn't paying for you, and then it was back into the thick of the park. Derek was on his way, and you were relieved to have him directing the course without a reminder to do so. Since we're here, we've got to ride the roller coaster. Then what are we waiting for? Come on. Alright. Mutual thrill propelled you through the crowd, flying past the souvenir shops and food stands so fast you could imagine yourself already on the coaster. The line was wrapped around the whole base of the coaster, but neither of you intended to give up. You could be patient for your reward. Though patient didn't mean calm, Derek restlessly bounced from heel to toe and repeatedly clasped and unclasped his hands, sometimes shaking his fingers out. His behavior was more appropriate for someone about to jump into a big game they've been training all their life for, but Derek had already gone through that kind of experience for real, so it was fitting for him. The thick row of people filed forward at a gradual pace. Derek shot out eager chatter when he got to move. He held on his high spirits the whole while, and eventually you reached the boarding platform. Finally, the suspense of waiting to be on the ride was replaced with the anticipation of the drop. You'd gotten a middle spot in the coaster. Not mine, what the fuck? No, with a bias towards the front. It was good with Derek, and that was good with you. Together, you piled in for the ride and closed the safety bars over your laps. A check of all cars was performed as usual, and when the clear was given, the wheels cranked ahead. It pulled higher and higher to the peak of the man-made wood mountain, until without warning the coaster careened over the other side. Derek hollered loud enough to hear over the shouts of everyone else, plus a clattering car, your teeth clattering in your head. You zoomed through twists and turns, being jostled around like you were tossed into a tumble dryer. And then it was over. You jerked forward when the car's speed decreased significantly at the last leg. Once the car cranked to a crawl and rolled into the station, you headed across to the exit on the other side, making sure not to leave anything behind. All the fellow riders went down the path in a group. Derek was out of breath and buzzing with energy. You were in a similar state. After ruffling his already completely tousled hair, Derek sighed happily.
You!
That was great. Yeah. You began to drift off over the boards again, heading nowhere but encouraged forward by the tide of the park goers coming through. He grinned at you as sweet as a mouthful of cotton candy. What do you want to do next?
Wait,
no, what do I want to do next, right? Good job, it's all up to you still. Derek and you joined in with laughter filling the park. Force of habit. Don't worry, I can't keep reminding you it's Derek's day. Derek's day, huh? I like the sound of that. As he cast his focus up to the sky. Derek traced the edges of his jaw using his thumb and pointer finger. It reminded you of the way Mr. Suarez would stroke his beard thoughtfully and respectably. Derek was missing the facial hair, but the effect was the same. What does Derek Suarez want to do? We've hit the roller coaster and face painting stall. I'm not huge on refreshments here, honestly. They've got bikes and the scooters, but you can do that almost anywhere. On top of that, time's running out before we have to leave, so... He's been going somewhere and stopped himself. That was also a pattern of his. When Derek spoke again, it was quiet, wistful, more for himself than in conversation.
well...
Probably shouldn't stay any longer, that's not responsible. What? I'll tell you this time, but before I do, let's ride the Ferris wheel. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Lead the way.
Alright.
Let's go. Derek glanced around to get the lay of the land. You wandered far from the coaster and entirely lost touch with where you stood in the park. But your new target was a tallest structure for miles around. There was no trouble in determining a path towards it. Together you made another crossing of the boardwalk. The line for the Ferris wheel wasn't as jam-packed as the first ride you had stopped at. Far more guests could fit at a time, and it was simply less of a draw to the high-energy guests attending that park. You couldn't get on immediately, but the wait wouldn't take long. Derek's attitude standing there was in stark contrast to how he behaved on the creeping crawl to the coaster. His feet were firm on the ground. A ride attendee got the door for both of you. That didn't mean you couldn't add your own touch of cordialness. Please, you first.
Thanks.
How kind. He promptly claimed, and you carefully got up to 2 steps in the car after. And what? 2 steps into the car after. Okay. Derek sat on the right bench, the same side he picked the last time you were there. Alright, Derek. Do you remember our conversation up here? 10 years ago, I think. You sat on the bench next to Derek, sat on the bench across from Derek. Didn't we sit across from him? I can't remember. We're gonna sit across from him though, so you can look at us. Derek held out a thumbs up to you before turning it to the attendant. Then the employee closed the tiny elevator room. You're fully encased inside and muffled the ruckusness so much you could believe the entire world had suddenly faded away. Glancing out the window showed that all was well. The car rocked forward and you watched as the ground grew further away. Excuse me. You and Derek were completely unreachable there. For the duration of the ride, it was only you and him. That was freeing in a way. Derek seemed to think so too, because it got him to talk without reservation. I know we didn't get to do all that much here. We're finishing up and the sun hasn't even started to set. But even still, this has been the best trip to the boardwalk I've had in years. He poked at a small chunk of glitter on his cheek that clumped together and stuck out from the rest.
You're seriously great.
I hope you know I really appreciate it. You're always looking out for me. Happy too. You deserve to have someone spoil you. You're welcome to feel the same way about you. You deserve to have someone spoil you. The Ferris wheel continued to go round on its set, unchanging path, always forward, never back. Even in the brightness of a summer day, a shadow fell over Derek's face.
Well...
You succeeded in making me happy. Is it alright if I ask if you had fun too? I'm having a wonderful time. That is so like you. You chuckled. You're a very sweet man, you know it earnestly. Of course, any time with Derek is a good time. Aww, that's good to know. His gaze dropped and his voice was a little heavy with the weight of emotional strain.
Thank you.
Thanks to you, I finally got to feel like I did when I was a kid for a little while. That means a lot. It's what I've been chasing since I got here. The big park, all dark and empty. Derek's pained confession. The scene all flashed through your mind. Its words rung out. How he felt he'd lost so much and could never get it back. Maybe that was entirely true after all. The soft smile on his face was exactly the same as the boy you once knew. Hey, remember that time you stayed over at my place and we camped out in the living room? We talked about the future in our dreams. The Father's Day thing might have been more of a bombshell, but I haven't forgotten the rest of that adventure. Yeah, same. We had such great plans a decade ago, huh?
Oh man.
Now we're here and I have no idea what I'm doing. I think that happens to everyone. Derek pressed himself into the heavy metal wall behind the seat and slumped down into it. I wonder what my 13-year-old self would have done if he called a psychic and they told him where his life would have actually gone. Maybe demand a refund. Come on, Derek. Everyone knows you're too polite to ask for your money back. You're right, but I would have thought about it. I'd have made a great speech in my head about how it's only fair to not have to pay for a reading like that. Derek's voice faded out, replaced by the sound of his fingers tapping against the seat. One after another, they played a rapid beat, like the fluttering of a heart.
This sucks.
Sucks that there's no way to actually know what's going to happen in the future, huh?
Forget it.
At least it was fun. A good break from having to be grown-ups. Yeah, you sighed. It was a good day. I wonder when we'll see each other again. Thanks again for letting me do this. I wouldn't be a kid forever, you joked. You shrugged. I wonder when we'll see each other again. You did appreciate that you had the chance to come for a short trip. It didn't stop you from already looking ahead to when you could be together during another time. Whenever you want, or can anyway. Whenever? You sure about that? Yep.
Leave it to me.
It's my apartment. I'm an adult, and I can say that Michiko Melody is allowed to visit all the time. He declared it proudly with a full air of haughtiness. If his pitch had been a little higher, that statement would have been a fairly accurate imitation of Liz. It was all more than a little silly, but the smile growing on your face stopped short of becoming full. Derek's bold-faced confidence was only pretend. Regret remained hidden behind every smile. I'm not going to be too busy for you anymore. I figured out what my actual priorities are way later than I should have, but I did.
I swear.
Part of that is being someone you could actually count on again. So my door is always open.
The truth is...
Since you've been here, I finally started to see a future I want to have. I've thought about it more and more, and it keeps coming back to the same thing. I don't want to be this far away from you. Oh, that was it. All along, the entire time you've been staying with him, and even before you had actually arrived. Those were the words Derek had been holding back. He didn't restrain them any longer. I was hoping to be closer to you when I lived in the next city over. Being neighbors was my dream. I wasn't totally kidding about that. But I wasted all the years we had being at a manageable travel distance from each other. I pushed off facing you for real until I reached a perpetually moving goalpost. I regret that. I still do. I don't know if it'll ever stop pissing me off. Derek caught this long-held anger began to carry him. He squeezed his eyes shut and forced his shaky, though steadying exhale out. That's not what matters, though. I can't redo the past. I've got to focus on what I can do. And what is that? I can move. I can live next to you now. Where do I live? The clawing darkness of the past faded under the shining hope of a better tomorrow. Why not, right? It's not as if I'd be canceling any amazing plans. I gave up everything before you got here. So this will be the best time for it. I don't have to renew my lease, and the career ideas I do have come with me. I can start them somewhere else. Or hell, if you've been wanting to come back to this area for more than a vacation, I could keep the apartment and you can move in. I'd be up for either if you are. We could be there for each other day by day. So are we like dating together, or like just, you know, friends supporting each other together? For the first time, Derek had expressed a whole and honest truth of what he wanted for his life, for himself. It wasn't about his family or only for your sake. But even then, Derek couldn't help pre-compromising his preferences. He doubted the appeal of his hopes to anyone other than himself.
Don't worry about that.
I get if you think it'd be overkill, or you're still worried about how it'd work out. It wouldn't have to be forever. He winked, cheeky and familiar. I'm not asking you to marry me again. Why not? Maybe it lasts for only a year and then we'll have new plans. I'm gonna need time to figure out the long term either way.
So
That's it. Derek's new plan. What do you think? I think it's perfect. I'll help you house hunt. I don't want him to move. Like, Nicholas is just so happy to have him like close by again. I feel like that would fuck it all up. One critique, you don't need to find a place. You can live with me. Derek, I respect what you want to do and I don't want to stop you. Are you kidding? I'd kill to live in an apartment. Would it really be alright for me to live with you? I love to visit again, but I don't think it's a good time for either of us to move. I don't even know what my girl's working on, because didn't I make her like a content creator or some shit? So technically I could live anywhere the fuck I want. Would it really be alright for me to live with you? That was almost too good to be true. You could be with Derek in a great place, right by your family and friends. You'd hoped it for yourself, and for a moment wondered why something that perfect hadn't come up before. Because I always feel, eventually you will want to come back home. Like, move back home. You eventually want to go back home. Because now that I'm a little older, and my parents are getting older, obviously, because that's how aging works, I want to go back to Florida. I want to go back to be with them. Especially after my parents, like, my mom definitely was like, she likes to talk about dark stuff, and that dark stuff is said, like, I don't have many years left to live, and I want you to be there for me. So, hearing her say that made me so heartbroken, because she's right. You know, we're all growing to get old, and they're not gonna be there forever. So, growing up sucks. Growing up sucks. Sometimes, because, you know, you get some freedom, but it still sucks, because we all don't know what, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but I surely don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And the next instant you remembered why. Neither of you pictured the other feeling the same way. So, like, confession right now, please. You imagine Derek is pursuing his sports dreams and never would have interrupted that. He saw himself as unworthy of others' acceptance until an abstract level of success was attained. But those days were behind both of you. The answer you gave and the dazzling smile it gave Derek was proof of it.
Really?
You know, with a complete resolve. There wasn't any need for doubt. Absolutely, Derek Suarez. His arms shot up as he whooped a victorious chair. Unfortunately, the Ferris wheel car wasn't built for that kind of celebration. His fist cracked directly against the metal ceiling of the cabin. But he laughed heartily, shaking off his smarting knuckles. Nothing was gonna bring him down. He started to ramble off moving logistics and preparations that need to be made. Informing the landlord that there be another occupant was paramount, but he was positive she wouldn't mind, and you'd be able to keep that key he'd given you from the start, of course. It was dry, grown-up responsibility stuff, yet it sparked more excitement in you than any amusement park could have. Derek was able to rein in the frenzied babbling long enough to extend a hand towards you intently. You understood what he meant by that. The place, the time of day, the terms. So much of the situation was entirely different from the first time Derek had made you an offer, but the feelings behind it remained the same. An earnest desire to not be separated. We're handshaking. We friend-zoned. You took hold of one another securely and shook. It's more like right person, wrong time situation here for us, and slow burn. Like, we know we like each other, but it feels like Derek's not ready for that commitment, that serious commitment.
It's a deal.
Deal. Wow. He slowly let you go before staring down at his hand in wide disbelief, as if it wasn't his. But it was. Derek had taken his own life into his hand of his. You believed he wouldn't lose hold of it ever again. I actually did it. His scuffed fingers curled into a fist. Then he lifted his intense green eyes to your face. Derek had grown and he'd held himself back. He changed and he reined himself. He developed into an adult he should be proud of, and he was still the boy you met 10 years ago. It was all true at once, and it made you happier than you could say. I'm feeling better about the future already. Thanks, Michiko. Derek had gained genuine confidence. He trusted his own decisions now that they were made to seek the best instead of to hide from the worst. Nothing in the world was more heartening than that. I mean, I am too, Derek. Derek satisfyingly stretched out his arms in front of him. He learned his lesson about moving them higher. Well, I might not really know what I'm doing with my own life, but I've at least got a nice apartment in a great location with a balcony and my favorite people all around. I'll take that as a win. We shook with the swaying of your personal cabin of laughter too. Derek snickered himself, but clung to a piece of the prior seriousness.
Phew.
It is a relief though. Feeling good about sticking around here is more progress than I had a few days ago. And 23 is not that old. There's plenty of time left to work it out. You've got things more figured out than you think. The world is your oyster. Is our oyster, Derek. You got things more figured out than you think.
Maybe.
You're usually right about stuff. For the first time in his waking hours, Derek was completely at peace with himself. He's so cute. I guess we're gonna just slow burn this relationship a little more, I guess. Your spirits have flown straight to the moon like a pair of shooting stars, so physically you were still in a gently drifting cabin and its position was on decline. The wheel's turns continued to slow until it came to a full stop. Derek's jaw was replaced with utter horror in an instant. Shit! He threw himself to the window and pressed his face against it, but Derek could only watch in stunned disbelief as the first of the cars unloaded lower down. The ride was coming to an end. When your cabin arrived at the bottom, you took your turn to dismount. You okay, Derek? The same attendant gestured toward the tall framed exit gate and thanked you for coming. Doing as instructed, you left the Ferris wheel behind you. Derek picked up his pace, bounding with each step to get ahead. He didn't go further into the crowd, but instead he jumped right in front of you. You paused, foot in midair, at the sudden and quite solid obstacle in your path. His arms were folded, his eyes intent. Sup, Michiko? Wow, it's you! We haven't seen each other in forever! Derek grinned fully as you curiously peered up at him. Would you want to ride the Ferris wheel with me? What? You blinked to put your foot down, and as used as you were to repetition in relation to the Suarez family, that one caught you off guard. Whether this was Derek's impulsive side or his secret long game planning side, you couldn't tell. Maybe a bit of both. Yeah, what a surprise! Derek chuckled subconsciously. The shock he had to have been clear to your face. It didn't stop him. He rambled on and on without taking a breath. But honestly, I know we just did that and had a whole big talk, but there was something else I'd planned on saying. I thought I'd be able to go over it all, then it went so fast, but I can't say it any other place even though it's important. The most important.
I swear.
If you can do this one more time, I'll never ask for anything again. Well, I'd ask you something, but it would be different, I swear. Then his entire face closed up and he finally sucked in some air through his nose. When his eyes opened, they were wide and pleading. Of course, he'd have a pro-puppy dog face. It was Derek's genes. Thank you, I'll tell you when we're there. A brand new promise lingering in your heart, you looped around with the width of the Ferris wheel to get in line once again. When the line thinned, you reached the front and you got into another car. Derek took his usual seat on the bench set towards the right-hand side of the entrance. He gestured a hand towards the left bench, asking you to sit across from him. It'd be nice if I could face you more easily, was his reasoning. This had to be serious if he needed to make absolute sure that you'd sit there again, but you'd take a spot alone on the metal panel. I feel like I'm about to have a job interview, you joked. You had an idea where this might be going. It was thrilling, nerve-wracking, bro. I will probably be a little bit nervous at this point. Nerve-wracking. Your heart thumped hard, your stomach clenched. Were you on the Ferris wheel again or the roller coaster? The sensation made more sense for the latter. Derek didn't fill the space with chatter as you were used to it. Instead, he made use of his requested vantage point to watch you intently from across the small room as the rest of the cars filled with guests, each having their own story that led them to the Ferris wheel that day. In a way, you and Derek were the only one of thousands, nothing special at all. The attendant who let you on the ride hadn't even seemed to realize you'd been there minutes before. But in another sense, you and him meant a great deal. You were both irreplaceable, depending on who was looking. The way he watched you with unflinching focus, it was clearly apparent which view he had. The silence was all encompassing, but the strength of his gaze kept your rapt attention. It was only once the Ferris wheel began its slow spin without interruption that Derek truly began what he'd set out to do. He placed his hands at his sides, planting his fingers across the bench for balance, and he leaned in towards you, physically showing how he was ready to open up.
You're seriously great.
Before anything, I want to thank you. Derek Day was awesome, and you're awesome for doing that. The sound of his warm voice filled with familiar zeal was the greatest relief. No matter what was about to happen, you were safe with him. Derek was happy and bright, grinning as you always pictured him in your mind. It was difficult to imagine him as overly serious, even when you'd seen it in person seconds before. But it's not even just that. Today isn't half of it. Doing chores and running errands making me feel so much less shitty over how I quit. And can I also mention real quick how cool it was that you cared about me and what I was thinking, instead of pointing out that I was irresponsible or wasted such a great opportunity. That was a big deal to me. But the smaller things matters too. You stayed up even later to help me when I absolutely had to put those groceries away right then. You insisted on putting together the game stuff so I could take it easy for a little. Damn, he's noting every little thing we actually did, choice-wise. He laughed without reservation, talking about you had a way of bringing out his boyish enthusiasm. Then on top of all that, you're good to my family too. Even when we get dramatic and have our issues, they're a major part of my life, always will be. So seeing how you get along with them is, well, let's say it tips the scales for this even more. A special something danced inside his bright green eyes. It was as if he'd realized himself for the first time what he was actually doing. What are you doing? Are you asking us out? Because I know it's not marriage. He stated that clearly.
Well,
I don't want to leave anything out, but I should get to the point. I'd die of embarrassment if I ran out of time again. Derek's wink made you crack a smile. He had a way of bringing out a pure joy in you too. But his expression soon shifted. Derek put his game face on. It's gotta be now. His voice was low, dangerously close to inaudible. You didn't want to miss any of it.
the truth is...
Michiko, my dream hasn't changed. My actual dream. Not the dream of being the best at some sport, so I didn't feel like a failure. I mean the one I told you about right here, almost 10 years ago. That evening came back to you in an instant. It was the first time you'd rode this Ferris wheel. You had a very similar view then. Derek had been right where he sat now, but so much smaller with his baby brother sleeping in his lap. The sunlight had been fading, shadows pressed in around you, and Derek whispered his hidden hope while you were almost all alone. Picturing that scene, reliving the words he'd said, the first drop of the roller coaster inside you was coming. Derek had no idea what was going on with your thoughts, or if he did, he wasn't letting it psych him out. He was someone who did what he set his mind to, and his determination was resolute. That's always been what I've really wanted. Even when I was pretending it wasn't, I still want someone on my side who's there for me as much as I'm there for them. A partner in life. You told me back then I had that in you, and I couldn't believe it, literally. Admitting that was the only shake in a single-minded declaration. He had to pause and offer an apologetic smile. I honestly didn't think it could be true. It was nice to hear, but I wasn't gonna hold you to it. Which was extremely dumb because you were the person I was thinking about the entire time I was saying it. Derek's hands flew to the sides of his head and gripped it. He wanted to shake himself for that. That's why I told you and not somebody else. What? The muscles on his legs tensed as he pressed his sneakers heavily against the immovable floor. There was nowhere to go, and that was the only reason he stayed in his seat. So instead, he used the energy to pull his radiating emotions to a single point and to put that in words. I couldn't admit what I felt then, or even hope you felt it too, but not anymore. So for once and for all, I'm gonna say what I've always thought. Good, thank God. Derek's premeditated positioning came into full effect as he stared you down straight on.
I love you.
Oh my God. I was not expecting the love. I was expecting like, I like you. I did not. Oh my God. Did not expect that. I want us to be on a team to face problems together. Not because there was no one else, but because there is no one else. And you can do with that what you want. I love you. That's it. Then Derek let out a sigh and slumped in his seat. How do you react? He didn't know, but he had already accomplished something for himself simply by having the courage to tell you. That was it. You met his gaze steadfastly. That was it. You went over to sit right next to... Ooh. you kissed him. The distance wasn't needed anymore. You broke the cardinal rule of theme parks. Don't get up from your seat while the ride is in motion. Your feet was unsteady in the dangling cabin, but your nerves were even. After a couple hunched over, semi-waddling steps, you dropped onto Derek, landing your lips against him. His skin heated up with tingling goosebumps. You pushed yourself off and glanced down at him. After a wonderful moment together, he managed to help you into an actual seat on the bench, embracing you in the process.
Are you serious?
Alright, so that definitely means what I think it means. Derek spoke with incredulous awe, as obvious as it was to both of you. It didn't seem impossible. The old feelings you'd held onto since the original day at the boardwalk, and even before that, were as alive as ever. I love you too. I love you, Derek Suarez. Those words froze Derek solid. He stopped breathing. He didn't blink, and this stasis lasted long enough for you to worry over his oxygen levels. His face might have been blue under all that red in his cheeks. A deep breath through a crooked grin was what finally broke his rock-solid features.
Oh, man.
An unexpected perk of picking this spot is that I can't get up and sprint around for 10 minutes. That wouldn't have been a great reaction, but probably exactly what I would have done if I could. That exactly like you. I could go for a run myself right about now. He gave his legs an understanding pat. You sighed with the equal parts. You were too cute. He let out a shaking breath, completing the process of breathing only once over an entire minute. Well, since a nice jog around the boardwalk is out of the equation, I have to do something else. His eyes were alight. For one example, I could kiss you. I'd like that. That works you not rapidly. How about a hug? Oh, why would you say that? You open your arms for a hug instead? That works. He took your hands into his without hesitation. You gripped him back and leaned closer. He met you halfway. Your lips touched, first lightly, then with more confidence. His were pulled up at the ends the entire time. The first time you'd ever kissed Derek was when you were barely teenagers, hanging out at the old park and making plans for the future as well as you could. Then, by making the backup deal. The second was only a minute ago. Your way went to once again tell Derek that you wanted to be his and for him to be yours. Both were important, but this one, a reciprocal kiss born of mutual affection, was the very best of them. However, you had a feeling there'd be many chances to outdo it in the days, weeks, and years to come. In the thrill of the moment, Derek's excitement got the better of him. His legs kicked up and he smacked his heel down against the bottom panel of the seat. A clattering sound vibrated in a tiny metal room and reminded you of the precariousness of your positions. Derek got the same wake-up call. You were still in the middle of a Ferris wheel ride, and bouncing off the walls wouldn't be the best plan.
Whoa.
He pulled your mouths apart, keeping you squeezed against his chest, and glanced around wide-eyed to check the situation. Then he giggled joyfully, no less carefree. I take it back. This wasn't a convenient place for a confession at all. I really was a good preparing as I claimed, I'd have picked somewhere that wouldn't rock if you moved around, and one that didn't have a 10-minute time limit. You both laughed, and Derek shook his head at the whole thing. Oh well, it was unavoidable. It was? Yeah. The cabin you were in was once again looked over up and down, but Derek's motivation was different. He wasn't checking for damage or to see if he was about to knock you both out of the sky. He was nostalgically drinking in the scene he'd found himself in. Honestly, it's pretty embarrassing, but I didn't want to ask you out any place other than here. Or really, I didn't think I'd have the fortitude in a different location. It's pretty scenic, right?
Well...
And mainly, it's the place where I started seriously imagining my future to be with you. Nika was there, so I couldn't ask if you liked someone or if you wanted to get married in the future, if we're still single, of course. I ended up doing that in the park a little later, but it was here when it happened in my head. I promised myself that if two of us ever ended up truly alone in a Ferris wheel, I'd spit it out before that ride was over. It was a secret deal I made with myself, a backup to the backup. That never happened until now, partly because going out to the boardwalk isn't exactly practical. It's even farther away than the water park, so it never came up. The other half of it is because I was avoiding this exact set of circumstances. I avoided all Ferris wheels everywhere. If I came to this, I'd have to break my vow or actually do it. And the joke here is, after all that, I still didn't get to it the first time. We had to go around twice. Humor softened into endearment and chuckles faded into gentle whispers. But we made it. Through all the years and all the miles between us, we got back here. I think that counts for something. It was a beautiful sentiment, though of course he was Derek Suarez, so his childish spirit couldn't stay quiet for long.
Nice!
And I did do it, and now we're together.
Wait.
Wait, there's one final thing we should probably talk about, or talk about again really. Do you want to stay in the place you have for now? Would moving be moving too fast? Now we're in a different kind of relationship than we were a few minutes ago when that was decided? No, wouldn't. I want to do it faster. The only thing better than living with a friend is living with my boyfriend.
I got you.
We've got a deal again, or still, whatever. We've got it. Thanks, Derek. He shifted and snuggled to get into the angle that optimized closeness and comfort. Derek linked his restless legs with yours to keep him content with something other than wild bucking. A freshly made couple enjoyed the comfort of the other's presence and bliss, though not for long. The ride once again came to its end much too fast for Derek's taste. He sighed with a great tragedy as the first of the passengers began to dismount lower on the wheel. You were of the same mind. Staying cloud nine with Derek for many more revolutions would have been perfectly welcome. When your car is at the bottom, you and Derek returned to Earth side by side as he had left it. However, nothing was the same. The world was an entirely different place now. Free from the metal cage that kept him restrained, Derek leapt up and high-fived the tall decorative gate over the exit. Merrymaking was entirely out of place there. It was still so brazen. It made some guests stare. He didn't care. How could he? His future had changed in an instant. A dream that belonged to you both had come true. Derek didn't know what to do with himself. Until suddenly he used the same hand that hit the gate to clap against his own forehead.
Oh
Shit, it's getting late. The first ride was supposed to be the final stop. We've still got the whole drive back.
man.
I swear I instantly stopped being a responsible adult whenever you're involved. It's okay, I'm glad you asked me to ride again. It makes me happy too, but we should head out. I can't make you miss saying goodbye to everyone else just for me. Together you bounded across the boardwalk one last time, knowing Derek wouldn't fall out of your reach when it was time for you to go carried away. When it was time for you to go carried you... okay, whatever. Soon you were packed into Derek's car and on a long trip home to truly your home after having made the most of the afternoon you got. Alright, this is where I'm gonna stop for today's episode. Because this episode is 50 minutes long. But we did it! We've done it! We are now a couple. We did it. Good job, Derek. Good job. You finally did it. Even though it was weird because first trip around the Ferris wheel, he didn't want marriage. But then the second trip around, he's like, yeah, I love you. But anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.